Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to session number 8 of our 2020 VRM University. We're so excited to have everybody with us at this noon hour. If you're here on the East Coast, welcome to lunchtime. We hope that you are able to grab a quick bite to eat and sit down and join us for a very informative presentation from our friends over at Q4Launch. We're super excited to have them on with us today. Maybe a name that you're, as far as VRM is concerned, partnership-wise, a little bit new to. We're really diving into our partnership, and we're really excited about it. Q4Launch has a whole host of products that I'm sure that Matt here will touch on at some point today. But this session is dedicated to really focusing on your marketing plan for 2020 that's going to help you just dive into the new year full of success and to what everybody wants to increase your revenue. So I'm sure part of that increasing revenue is understanding your bookings and reaching the right audience, et cetera. So Matt, thank you so much for being with us. This is Matt Bear with Q4Launch. He's the founder of Q4Launch. It's always fun when we get to talk to like a founder or a co-founder because they know the company backwards and forward, and it is a intimate acquaintance for them. So welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Tracy, and thanks for having us. We're excited to be here, excited to connect with you and the VRM customer base. We love you guys. We think a lot of VRM and everything you guys, and I'll say as we talk to different people in the industry and talk to different customers using different PMSs, man, I'll tell you the VRM customers are probably more loyal than anybody else we talk to, and love the VRM team there and the solution you all provide. So kudos to you, Tracy, and the whole VRM team. I'm excited to be formally kicking off our partnership. We've had kind of an informal partnership for years as we've shared several mutually successful customers along the way, but excited to be kicking off a more formal partnership with you all today to help our mutual customers out. And really to be diving into something that should be top of mind for all of us, if it's not already, but that's really building our 2021 marketing plan. For those of you that may already follow our webinar series, you've been hearing a lot from us about marketing plans and what we're working on and what we're looking at, and we're doing a ton of education. Wanted to bring a totally different session to you guys today than anything we're doing on our own webinar series, but content unique only for the VRM customers. So excited to dive into that today. This is actually kind of riffed off of one of the sessions I have taught at VRMA before, if you've seen me teach at a VRMA conference, and one of the most highest rated sessions I've ever taught anywhere in the world when I've taught this at VRMA. So excited about that. Hopefully it's helpful for you today, as it's been helpful for a lot of other people, and excited to be broadcasting to you live from our Q4 office, where we have 4 people in 15,000 square feet. So we are all successfully socially distanced. We've done
I want to point out, Matt, if Matt just slides over a little bit, they have a slide in their office. And I don't know, if anybody, any of my executives are higher up, but I'm feeling a little gypped right now that I don't have a slide in my office. So I think that just tells us we're setting ourselves up for a lot of fun, that this is a fun team to work with. I think that Matt would love to have your questions today. So if you do have questions along the way, please drop those in the Q&A section down at the bottom of your screen. You'll see those 2 little speech bubbles. Click that button, drop your question, and I'll be monitoring that. If it's appropriate with where Matt is in his presentation, I'll stop there and ask the question, or come up with my own questions if you don't ask any, because I'm always full of questions. And if it's not quite where he is, we'll save those questions to the end. And this session is being recorded, so anybody who wants to watch it again later or share it with a team member, we will have that available for replay back on the same page where you registered. And I think that's all of our housekeeping. So Matt, tell us how to do a marketing plan that's going to increase revenue.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive into it. I'll say one of our core values is to create fun. So when we built out our new office last year to move into this year, we had to add a second story just so we could have somewhere to slide down from. So it was a big part of our vision and recruiting plan for recruiting great talent here in the Charleston, South Carolina area. But we love it, and unfortunately have not been able to spend as much time here this year as we wanted to. But it's a great space for our team to come and grow and work hard for you, and collaborate together, which is what it's all about. So let's dive into our content here today. There's a lot of content we're going to touch on as we move through this. So certainly, as Tracy said, the recording's available. I encourage you to listen to that. And while most recordings, you might want to speed them up and listen at 1.25x, I guarantee you I will talk fast enough today. You may want to slow this recording down because that's how much content we have to cover together over the next 45, 50 minutes here. So let's dive in and hit on some things. Let's start by taking a look back at 2020, right? If we want to build a plan for where we want to go in 2021, we have to take a look back at 2020. You may be so ready to move on from 2020. But before we do that, we have to take a look back and really understand it. I don't want to look back at the election. I don't want to look back at COVID. I don't want to talk about those things, but let's talk about zooming out of that. And let's talk about a little bit about what's happened in our marketplace, right? In the vacation rental marketplace, but also in your individual marketplace. We know that Google's continuing to drive change in their algorithm. We know Airbnb has disrupted a lot of things. They're still seeing tremendous growth. You know, as Brian Chesky said, I thought I just lost my business when COVID started, and then it has come roaring back. And I know that has disrupted many of your businesses as well. When they canceled all these bookings and refunded everybody money, and then this kind of host payback plan they had, and crazy years it relates to that. But we see a lot of disruption in this space from Airbnb. We also see more local competitors starting now than ever before. You know, I think the growth of Airbnb, people come in as Airbnb hosts, they have 1, 2, 3 properties, and then they realize, hey, there's a whole industry here, and they're introduced to the industry by Airbnb, and then they try to become or do become vacation managers. And I would say in the last probably 3 months, which has been interesting because of COVID and the crisis that created, but we have had more conversations with startup vacation rental managers than ever before in the history of our company. And it's not that we're having more conversations in general. I mean, we are, but proportionately, we're having more conversations with first-time vacation rental managers than ever before, because I believe there are more of them, and we're seeing that shift of 1, 2, 3 unit Airbnb hosts becoming professional vacation rental managers and looking at scaling their business. And what that means for you, if that's you, congratulations on your startup journey and becoming an entrepreneur and what that looks like. We love that. We celebrate that spirit with you. As Tracy said, I'm a founder, which is why I'm still drinking coffee here at noon, because you're always going 100 miles an hour as a founder. So congratulations to you if that's you. If that's not you, what that means is the marketplace is getting more competitive, right? You've got more competitors entering the marketplace, going after the homes that you might already manage, going after the guests that you might already be earning. So a lot is going on, and you have to, as Warren Buffett would say, build a moat around your business. And I believe that great marketing is a really important part of building that moat around your business that prevents other people from taking your customers away, both your customer, the homeowner, and your customer, the guest. So marketing is so important as part of building that moat around your business or your castle to defend against people coming in to take your market share. Lots going on in the marketplace, but that big takeaway as we look back at 2020 and even 2019 is the marketplace is getting more competitive. And I would bet there's probably names coming to mind right now for you, competition in your marketplace that didn't exist last year, the year before last. I thought COVID was going to slow that down, but seemingly it has actually increased it and ramped that up, which is a really interesting response. Could be that a lot of people found themselves out of jobs, don't know what all is driving that, but certainly the facts are showing that. So some questions as I teach this session live. Love to do some audience participation. I don't even know if Zoom has audience participation, but if it does, or the chat panel or whatever, find a way to respond and audience participate today. But how many of us want our 2021 to be better than our 2020? I'd love to get a show of hands or a Zoom shout out or a comment in the chat panel, whatever. How many of us have made a major change in our marketing strategy in 2020? Right? I mean, we've all made massive changes probably in 2020 because of COVID, but how many of us have really made a major change? All right, I see that in the chat panel. Thank you. I've had a major change in our marketing strategy in 2020. And then the question that I have from that is, how many of us are going to make a major change in 2021, right? So we want 2021 to be better than 2020 was. I know I can get an amen on that. I'm not a preacher, but if I could get an amen on that for sure. But how many of us have made the changes to make that happen or are planning to make that happen? I'm sure you've seen this quote, whether it's actually Einstein or not, I'm not going to debate with you, but insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And my point with that being that if you want 2021 to be different than 2020 was, you have to be willing to do something different. You have to be willing to take a risk. You have to be willing to try something you've never tried before, or try something you've tried before but failed in a new and different kind of way. We see a lot of success stories coming from people that tried before and failed and then trying it a different way. I was talking to a VRM customer the other day who was with another agency, and they said, I'm never doing pay-per-click again. That was such a disaster when I did it with so-and-so. And I was like, well, give it a different shot, because honestly, pay-per-click's not the issue. Pay-per-click will crush it for you. The executor, the person who did it for you, if you will, is the issue, I think, in this case, because your results are not indicative of results that we're expecting to see. And spoiler alert on that story, they now have one of the highest return on ad spends of all of our customers when they were scared to try it just a few months ago, because they'd had a bad experience with it in the past. So don't do it the same way again, but take a new approach, do something different, take a risk in a way you haven't taken it in the past, try something new in your business. And those are exciting times as well, right? As entrepreneurs and founders and directors of marketing, general managers, whatever your title is, an opportunity to try something new. And as this picture of Einstein here says, have a little bit of fun with it, and experimenting with that can certainly bring that fun. As you're preparing to do that, and as you're preparing to try some new things, what I would say is to benchmark your results, right? Did you meet your bookings goal for 2020? I mean, many of us thought our whole business was about to collapse in April and then may have had the best summer we've ever had. I would say that's pretty much the resounding story across our customer base, with a few exceptions. And if you are one of those exceptions, I don't mean to make light of that at all. We know those exceptions are out there. Markets in Florida, Hawaii have had some really difficult times. California, we've had some difficult markets. Urban markets have been very difficult. So I'm not making light of that, but many of you have ended up having a record year while the government was paying your expenses through PPP funds. And you've had you're going to have record profitability this year as a result of that. Your expenses went away through PPP, and then you had record bookings, record travel happening over the summer and into the fall. And you're going to be faced with a huge tax bill. And I will say, investing into marketing now ahead of 2021 can be a huge tax advantage for you. I'm not a CPA, but my dad is, and I got QuickBooks for Christmas when I was 17 years old. So that's how screwed up my childhood was, when you get QuickBooks for Christmas. But the point being, there is some serious tax advantages into making investments in marketing now to help you grow in 2021. And if you've had a strong profit year, that may be something you need to look at. There's some other benchmarks there. For time's sake, I'm not going to dive into all of those today, but those are some general benchmarks that I would say, and you can come back to that in that recording, or you can screenshot it, whatever, take a picture with your phone. But figure out kind of how are you stacking up against those benchmarks? Where are you at against some industry averages there? And then as we think about those benchmarks become opportunities to set goals for 2021. These are the industry averages. This is where I am, and pulling that data out of Google Analytics or out of VRM, depending on the data point that it is. And then let's come together. Let's set some goals for 2021. Obviously, we want to increase our bookings, or you probably wouldn't be on this webinar today. But by how much? Do we want to shift bookings from OTAs to direct? Do we want to increase repeat guests? Do we want to gain more homes? What are our goals, and how are we going to accomplish those? You might be looking to reallocate a portion of your AdWords budget. We just onboarded a new customer about 45 days ago. They were spending $2 million on Google Ads in the Gatlinburg market. And our goal for them, he came to us because he wasn't happy with it. He'd been managing it himself for years. He was generating about a 2.7x return on ad spend. So it wasn't terrible, but it was honestly about the industry average, but it certainly wasn't good. And he said, I can't manage this anymore. I just can't keep up with it anymore. So I want you guys to manage it for me. I've heard you're awesome at it. So take it over. And by the way, I want to cut my spend in half. I want to cut my spend from $2 million a year, which is a lot, down to $1 million. And I said, not only do I think we can do that for you, but I think we can double the revenue you've seen as a result of that. Basically, take that 2.7x return on ad spend and make that a 10x return on ad spend. Cut the budget in half, double the revenue, quadruple the results. And that's the plan that we're executing for him. And in our first 30 days, sorry, I'm excited about this, or it wasn't actually in my plan to talk about this, but I'm excited about it. So we're going to talk about it. In our first 30 days working with them, we launched their campaigns October 6th. So now it's November 12th. So 36 days. We've actually already doubled their return on ad spend. We're halfway to our goal, and we're only 30 days in, which is super exciting, and the customers incredibly excited as well. So really exciting stuff. And don't get lost in that budget and be like, oh, it's not applicable to me. I don't have $1 million ad budget. That's not the point. No matter what your ad budget is, or maybe you don't have an ad budget, the point is, should you be investing what you're investing? And if not, how do we need to change that? And are we happy with our results? Whether you're spending $100 or $1 million, there's probably some change and some low-hanging fruit you can make in that strategy. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we talk about Google Ads in that specific section today. Now, over the next 40 minutes, what we want to do is turn our attention to how do we build a plan to achieve your goals. And at the beginning, the intro slide there said our one-page marketing plan to increase revenue. And you're like, well, this has been a lot of slides so far, man. I don't know what you're talking about with one page. There's literally a one-page plan that I created to do this. My email address will be on the screen. Actually, our company's email address will be on the screen at the end of the session today. Tracy can also drop that in the chat panel for everybody, just info@Q4Launch.com. But if you email info@Q4Launch.com, just put one-page marketing plan in the subject line, or VRMU session, put whatever. We're smart enough. We'll figure it out. We'll email you a copy of that. It's actually an Excel spreadsheet that kind of lays this out and lays out a plan for you, and we'll email you a copy of that. Wanted to have it all set up as an automation thing for you, but we didn't get that done today. But we will email you a copy. Just email us info@Q4Launch.com. And we'll reply back with a copy of that one-page marketing plan, which is an Excel spreadsheet that will help you frame your 2021 plan. All right, let's dive in and take a look at this though. So let's lay out our plan together here. We don't have the Excel in front of us. Let's dive into it. It starts with a great website, right? I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, we want to do marketing. We want to do this. We want to grow our traffic. We want to see this. And that's all great, right? But I would say is, do we have a great website? We're going to spend time or spend money. Those are the two resources we have to drive traffic to a website to convert into bookings. That is what marketing is all about. At the core, we are driving traffic to a website, which we want to convert into leads and to convert into bookings to make our company more money. That is our whole goal. That sums up what we do at Q4Launch as a company for our customers. It's obviously very complex, but that sums it up. And as you think about that, your website is the hub of all of that. It's in the middle of everything that you do. It's in the middle of your marketing efforts. It's in the middle of the time you spend on social media. It's in the middle of the email campaigns you send out. And you have to have a great website. It is your number one tool to compete with the OTAs, but also to compete in your local marketplace. And there's a few questions to ask yourself there, a few things to think about. It's kind of, again, some things to kind of benchmark against as it relates to what's going on with your website. But it starts with a great website. Make sure before you go spend a bunch of money or a bunch of time doing marketing that you have a great website. And we're happy to help you understand that, because a website is modern design and a great website's modern design, but that's not all of it. Honestly, that's not even the most important part of it. There is so much more that goes into what makes a great website that's behind the scenes, things you can't necessarily see that your Google Analytics will reveal to you if you know how to read and understand that data. So we'd be happy to connect with you on that. I'll probably mention that a few times here in our time together, but to do a free Google Analytics analysis. As part of our partnership with VRM, we are happy to do that for all VRM users, customers, to be able to just provide a free insight into your Google Analytics to help you understand how your marketing is performing and how your website's performing. And I wouldn't spend more money or launch a new plan until I've taken that step of understanding my analytics, how my website is performing, how my current marketing is performing in light of the industry benchmarks we've talked about, what's going on in the marketplace, and from there, build a plan. As we look at that, a few other things to be thinking about when we look at a great website, some stuff that we believe makes it very effective from a marketing perspective is, one is your blog designed as an entrance point. A lot of people have blogs on their site, but they're more afterthoughts from a design perspective. Think about the fact that if you're doing blogging or content marketing well, people are going to enter your website on the blog. It's going to be their first exposure to your company. And does it serve that purpose well? Does it take them from your blog to where they want to go on your site effectively? Does it help engage visitors to grow your email list? Is your website supporting a goal of growing an email list? If that's not one of your marketing goals, it should be. So let's put that on the list. Grow our email database, and your website plays a key role in doing that. Is it converting traffic into bookings? Well, the answer probably is yes, but is it doing it effectively? Because we've looked at analytics across the industry for hundreds and hundreds of vacation rental managers, I can tell you that the e-commerce, the average e-commerce conversion rate, the average percentage of people who come to your website and make a booking in any given day across our industry is 0.4%, less than a half a percent, which seems shockingly low, and it is, and there's a lot of reasons that it's low. But honestly, we've seen a lot of people who are even lower than that. I talked to a vacational manager yesterday who was 0.16. And I said, right off the bat, you're a third to a half of what the industry average e-commerce conversion rate is. So we have an issue there. We need to figure out, understand, and fix. I would say maybe not even before we start marketing, but in parallel to ramping up your marketing approach, we need to figure out what's going on there, fix that problem. Why is your website not performing as well as it should be? And then are we set up to track our marketing goals effectively? You know, I said, let's define some marketing goals, but then let's use our website and Google Analytics to be able to track those marketing goals effectively. One other thing that we think about is your website future-proof? And then there's a transition happening in our industry where things are changing from being, you know, kind of projects where you build a website like a house and you put a lot of time and energy into it and it costs a bunch of money, and then you just spend money maintaining it on and on and on. And after a while, unlike a house, it gets outdated and you kind of knock it down and you build another one. That might happen with houses, but not as quickly as it happens with websites. With websites, it happens every 3 to 5 years. We believe your website should be future-proof and that it should evolve with you. Much like your VRM software, it's constantly getting better. New features, new releases are coming out. It's constantly getting better. Your website should be doing the same thing. Otherwise, your website falls behind and is out of date probably the day you launched it. Now all the time has passed, all the technology changes have passed. How out of date is your site versus having a site that works more like software and something that can help position you for success? We can't predict what's going to happen in the future, but we can prepare for it and we can change in real time as it's happening versus the old model of, okay, let's just relaunch a website every 3 to 5 years, which we believe is kind of a model of the past and a broken model. All right, so we've talked a little bit about the website, you know, getting people there, helping them be successful. Now let's talk about one of the things that I think is one of the most underutilized marketing mediums in our industry, and that's specifically email marketing. When we talk to vacation managers and survey them and have show of hands at conferences, we think that, well, we know email marketing is one of the most effective drivers of return on investment, but it's also the marketing medium that's probably most underutilized. When I ask for a show of hands in a room full of vacation managers at VRMA, and I ask who's doing email marketing at least once or twice per month, the number of hands that goes up is about 5%. About 5% of vacation managers are sending email campaigns at least once a month, but ideally twice a month. And that needs to change. Email can be a great way to stay in touch with your database,
Hey, Matt,
especially in this.
can I interrupt you for just one moment? Because
Of course.
first of all, I love talking about email marketing, but I won't. I will restrain myself because everything you just said, I completely agree with. And I know one of the things that I have heard over and over, you know, just inside our industry and even outside the industry, just talking about marketing in general, is the to me a misnomer, and maybe you can just speak to this. Well, email marketing is outdated. Email marketing is a thing of the past. Nobody looks at emails. So what do you say? I'm sure you've heard that before. What do you say to that? Because I know somebody is thinking that in the back of their mind right now. So what do you say to that person?
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing that for a long time. And what I would say is the data should answer that, not your emotions. One, that's a statement that someone else probably made trying to sell you something else. And the reality is you shouldn't make decisions off what I say or what some other person says. You should make decisions off of data. And what your data says should answer that question. And I can tell you from, we send about 8 million emails a month as a company. So put that in perspective. We have a massive amount of data on email marketing. And one customer in California, and they're top of mind because I just saw it in our success channel, but last month they sent an email campaign specifically promoting holiday bookings. That was the whole purpose of it. Showcased homes that were still available for the upcoming holidays. And that one email campaign, now granted, they're a little bit of a larger company. I think they have about 150 properties and they have expensive properties, but that one email campaign drove 86 bookings that totaled $486,000. And we could track that and prove that through our software, or through our software partner. Excuse me, it's not all our software, but through our software partner in this case, not our property management software, but they're a Navis user. So that information came to us out of Navis. So is it outdated? I don't believe so. And I can guarantee you, I can prove it's not outdated from a revenue perspective. Now, I get $486,000 seems like a lot of money. It is a lot of money. And you may say, well, that company's way bigger than us, or that company's way smaller than us. That's not the point. The point is they drove 86 bookings out of their database last month with one email campaign about holiday bookings. So the data proves it's not outdated, and it will be absolutely a huge part of our revenue strategy for you in 2021 if you embrace it. Thanks for that, though, Tracy. The other misconception we hear, and this may be on my next slide, and it's actually the one I thought you were going to say, but you chose another great one. The other misconception that we see with email marketing is, I don't want to get more email, so I'm not going to send more email. And I'm like, and I always laugh when I hear that. One, it's the number one misconception we hear about email marketing. The second being the one Tracy just raised. But I always think about the office, or excuse me, not the office, Office Space and Milton, and the whole TPS report thing, right? And I've actually used that meme in some of these presentations I've given in the past. But the point being is, I don't want to get more email either. I get like 100 emails a day that I have to respond to as the founder at Q4, and that's a lot, and it's exhausting. But what I will tell you happens is I also get emails from some of my favorite travel brands. And sometimes when I'm just bogged down in my email and I just need a break, maybe I got a difficult email, or I've just been on the train of responding to email, I just need a break. I'll intentionally click in my promotions folder and I will find the most recent travel email I've received, because what that email does is it takes me back to that place and it lets me check out for a minute and daydream about that experience I had, that getaway with my wife and how special that was, or that time we went to the beach with our kids or the mountains with our kids. And I have this momentary reprieve where if my employees walk up, it looks like I'm working because my email's open, right? Working hard. Same being true of anybody else's boss. They're working hard. Probably all my employees are watching the Masters right now. But the point being, like, they look like they're working hard, when in reality, they're checked out, daydreaming about taking a vacation. And that's what your email should do. Great email should take people back to the vacation they had at your property, and using great photos and great language to be able to do that, take them back there. When your email shows up in their inbox, they should be excited about it, not dreading it. So that emotional response, that misconception of I don't want more email, it's a totally different thing. I don't want more email about things I got to respond to. I do want more email with beautiful places, beautiful pictures of beautiful places that I love to go with my friends and family. Does that make sense? I'm not going to wait for an affirmative because we don't have enough time, but I know it makes sense. I know you'd be nodding your head. Maybe you are nodding your head and you're just not sharing your webcam. That's great. But that's what we're trying to do with email. Tracy, feel free to jump in if there's anything else you want to add to that.
I've heard that same exact conversation as well of I don't want more email, and I kind of too shake my head and I'm like, but don't you want more bookings? Like it's and like I love what Matt said. I mean, just look at the data. The proof is in the pudding. And I still believe very, very strongly in email marketing. And I truly believe it is your greatest potential for ROI when it comes to marketing still to date. Like, you just can't find another platform where you're going to be able to make that kind of money, and you're going to be able to build a relationship. And I think that to me is the biggest part about email marketing, watching your Google Analytics, being able to see that if somebody went back and clicked on an email that you sent 9 months ago and booked a reservation. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, email marketing truly is, it just, people just will search your name and find an email that you sent and that they didn't delete. There it is. It's still working for you months and months and months later, sometimes even years later.
Yeah, absolutely. All great points. Thanks for sharing those, Tracy. We're going to move on here and talk a little bit about, one thing to jump off something Tracy said there. When we study different marketing mediums and the ROI by medium, email consistently provides about a 40-to-1 ROI. And that's not specific to our customers or our industry. That's studied across digital marketing in all industries by large, research firms that are doing those studies. So show me another medium that can provide you a 40-to-1 ROI. And I would say go for that too, right? It's not mutually exclusive. Do that and do email. But 40-to-1 is higher than about anything else I can think of, to Tracy's point, that it provides one of the highest ROIs of all marketing mediums. So thanks for mentioning that, Tracy, and helping me think back to that research study. It sounds like similar probably to what you've seen as well. And we certainly see those things playing true for our customers. I'm going to touch briefly on blogging and content creation here. And I think this is an area that's often misunderstood and often done very, very poorly. First, what we're trying to do when we are blogging is create content around things people are searching for when they're planning a trip to your destination. One of the things I say is that we want to be like a 360-degree surround sound for our customers. Everywhere they go, we want them to find us. And everything they search, we want them to find us, find our customers. And blogging really helps us do that. We use blogging to get in the path of people planning a trip to our destination, and then use lead generation and other calls to action within that content to be able to guide them to other parts of our website or to convert them into a lead. What I think a lot of people forget is that blogging is not designed to drive bookings necessarily. Blogging is designed to raise brand awareness, increase your brand positioning, increase your overall search engine rankings, and help you generate more traffic to generate more leads. And the leads will then convert into bookings. But it is difficult to track that path from I found you by searching for this and I booked my vacation. Like, it's a little bit difficult to do that because these people are not in the booking stage when they're searching for these things. That we're intercepting consumers, we're intercepting travelers that are in the dreaming and planning stage, trying to convert them as leads and then nurture them into the booking stage. And that's when they make their booking. And as a result of that, some other source gets the credit for the booking, whereas they might have found us the very first time through our content creation. And one of the ways we know this, and it actually ties into an algorithm update that Google has already announced but hasn't released yet. We're expecting it in early 2021. And we talked about that in an SEO webinar we did recently. But what they said is that user experience is going to become more important in 2021. And as a part of user experience, your brand is going to become more important. And we believe that they are going to use the number of times your brand name is searched as a ranking indicator within your local market. And that's specifically how you compete against your local competitors, not how you compete against Vrbo or Airbnb, right? Because of course you're never going to get your brand searched as much as their brands are searched, but your local competition. And I tie that back to say one of the things we know every single time we do content creation and blogging well is we increase the amount of monthly searches for our customers' brand name, because people find you by searching for something and they're planning their trip. They remember your brand name, and next time they search your brand name to get back to your website. Every single time we launch a content creation and a blogging strategy with a customer, we see branded search over the next 12 to 36 months on the rise. That helps you in so many ways. You can never track back directly to the content creation that you did. Lots of different ideas here on how to do blogging effectively. Just going to share kind of some quick tips here on how to do that. We would say if you can, plan to blog weekly, 500 to 700 words per blog post, each one focused on an individual keyword with related keywords to that keyword worked into it. You can find those related keywords at the bottom of a search result page when you do a search. And then use different calls to action within that content you're creating. This is one of the mistakes most people make with blogging, is they write a blog with no calls to action in it and they don't know why it doesn't work. Marketing without calls to action doesn't work. That's pretty marketing 101, but for whatever reason, a lot of people fail to apply it to content creation or blogging. So use that well. We think our blog design, we don't think, we know because we've designed it specifically to do this, but we have designed our blog to do that intentionally, to be able to take someone who enters the website there, and then you can see just a little screenshot on the right, but have calls to action down the right-hand sidebar, have a search bar to search for vacation rentals actually at the top of it, which is cropped out of this picture, and then have a button builder. So you see that little blue button right in the middle of our content. We can build buttons on the fly as we're creating content to take people to different parts of our site, just making it really easy on people to get where they want to go inside of our site from entering our website via our blog. And when we're doing that well over a period of time, we increase the amount of traffic who's finding you via our blog. And that traffic we're increasing is homeowners who are in destination or planning a trip, because homeowners behave just like tourists, right? Or travelers. That's how they got to be homeowners in the first place. They came to the destination, loved it, so they bought a house. They behave the same way. That's something a lot of people forget about when they're trying to attract homeowners, is that they behave like travelers, because at the end of the day, that is what they are. They're just travelers who come more often and have more money. But to do those things to attract them and then be able to convert those people through this process. So some quick tips there, a lot of information really fast, as I said it was going to be, on content creation and blogging. And as we do that, we want to grow to the point where 30% of our overall traffic is entering the website via the blog, and make sure that our blog is designed to convert that traffic into other parts of our site, first and foremost, into leads, and ultimately into bookings. All right. Next, we're going to touch base quickly on social media. Social media is one of those things that we certainly think you should be doing, but is difficult as well to drive ROI from. And as we have studied the role social media plays in people booking travel, this is what we have found. That typically people will discover a destination on social media. I planned a trip to Sedona last year, and I discovered that trip to Sedona, decided to take my family to Sedona because a friend of mine went to Sedona and post beautiful pictures of the destination. And we love to hike. She loves to hike. We have a lot in common. Obviously, we're friends. So I was seeing pictures of her hikes, like, man, we got to take the family to Sedona. I was running a marathon in Denver. I was like, all right, it's a short jump from Denver to Sedona. Let's make that happen and do that. So we discovered the destination via social media. But we did not stay where she stayed. She was there with her husband. I was there with my kids. Different trip, different experience. I didn't really care where she stayed. That wasn't as relevant. I have my own particular things that I'm looking for in a place to stay. Point being, I discovered the destination, but not the property I chose to stay at or the vacation rental that I chose to stay at through that post. But what I did do, so I started searching Sedona. I went on to search for Sedona vacation rentals on Google. I found a couple options, narrowed it down, and then I found a company. It's like, this looks good. I like this unit. The website's nice. It's easy to use. That's very centrally located. Then what I did was I went to their social media presence and I checked them out. I was like, okay, do they have good reviews, bad reviews? Are they interacting with people? Are they not present? What's going on? And what I was doing there was I'd already found the company by doing a Google search, but what I was looking for was social proof. I was looking for social proof that said this is a good company to do business with, or this is not a good company to do business with. And in that way, social media influenced my decision. If they did not have social proof, if they did not have a good social media presence, they did not have good reviews, I would have chosen not to book with them, and I would have gone back to Google and searched for somebody else. So in that way, social media did not drive a booking. It was not the source of the booking, but it could have lost the booking for them if they didn't do it well. And I think that's what people confuse about social media. In our experience, it's not the source of the booking, but if you don't do it well, it will lose you bookings. Unfortunately, we can't measure as marketers how many bookings we lost and why we lost them. But we know that happens, right? And I love personal stories like that because they make it make a lot more sense. So that's how we need to be thinking about social media. One, let's try to get discovered. Sure, when people are looking at the destination, I'm not saying don't try that, but generally we don't see an ROI on that. But then what we should do is interact with our customers, our followers. So when people go to our social media in the booking process to look for social proof, they find what they're looking for, they're reassured, and they decide to book with us as a result of partially what they've seen there. I hope that makes sense. And as a part of that, we also want to be growing your fan base, right? I mean, as part of that social proof, one of the things I always check is, one, how often are they posting? How engaged is their audience? And how big is their audience? If I go to a page and it looks like it's a big company, but they only have 200 fans, I'm like, that just doesn't seem right. Like, so that's a kind of a discreditor for me, if you will. Might not kill the deal, but they lose some credibility. So for that reason, we want to be growing a fan base at 5 to 10%. And that chart there on the right just shows you the growth of what we want to see. That's specifically a Facebook graphic, but Facebook likes, we want to see that growing over a period of time. So if you have 200 fans now, which is kind of the average in our industry, the average Facebook page has about 200 fans. We want to grow that at about 5 to 10% per month. So a year from now, you've got 1,000, 2,000 fans in social media, which I get is much larger than those percentages. Those percentages kick in once you have a larger page. When it's small, like 200, we need to get you to 1,000, 2,000 in the first year, and then grow on top of that from a social perspective. So a lot there, a lot of information, but we got to keep moving along to get everything in our one-page marketing plan and in your marketing plan for 2021. All right, let's talk about SEO, or search engine optimization. This has changed dramatically in the last 3 to 4 years. It's crazy. I was reflecting on it with one of our coworkers who actually wrote a blog about this for us. But 3 or 4 years ago, if you were the #1 organic search result, you were the #1 person on the page. And that just made a ton of sense. And life was easy. And we got a lot of traffic. Now we have customers who have stayed the #1 search result, the #1 organic listing, but they are actually the #9 position. Reason being, 3 years ago-ish, Google moved the paid ads from the right-hand sidebar to the top of the page. And they made 4 of them. And the first one often has like 5 to 8 links in it. So there's like 8 links right there in the first search result that's a paid position. So there's 4 paid positions. Then in summer of 2019, you all know Google rolled out the vacation rental search results experience. And that's 4 more listings that show up. So now we're into the 8th position. Now we have 8 people ahead of us, and we have way more than 8 links ahead of us. And we've done nothing wrong. We have maintained our #1 organic search ranking, which is hard to do, but we've done it. But we've lost traffic because really we've moved from #1 to #9 in overall positioning. And that's just one of the many things that's changed with search engine optimization in the last 3 to 4 years. There are so many. I already talked about another big change that we're anticipating in 2021 that Google has already announced is going to be happening. At the same time, so much is changing and the world has gotten kind of turned upside down a little bit with this, and Google has shifted a lot of organic traffic to paid traffic. Lots has happened. It is still and always has been our #1 source of bookings for our customers. When you look at your direct bookings, Google Organic will hands down be your #1 source of bookings. And if it's not, something is wrong in your marketing plan. What you should see if you go in Google Analytics is that Google Organic brings you 40% of your overall traffic and brings you about 50% of your overall bookings. And if you have more or less traffic than that and more or less bookings coming from Google Organic than that, something is wrong with your strategy. If you have more traffic coming from Google Organic than that, it's probably a sign that the other parts of your strategy, pay-per-click, email marketing, social, aren't working as well as they should be. If you have less than that, it's probably a sign that your SEO strategy isn't working as well as it should be. You got to dive a little deeper to really know, but at a high level, that's what we see to be true across people that we look at. And I'll tell you right now, if you told me as a business owner and as a founder that 50% of my direct bookings were going to come from one source, I would absolutely be paying a lot of attention to it. If 50% of my business comes from one place, now keep in mind, we're only talking about direct bookings. So not 50% of total, but 50% of direct bookings come from this source. If you told me that as a business owner, I would be paying attention to that night and day. Because if something goes wrong with where 50% of my bookings come from, I have a big problem. And I'll tell you a real quick story about somebody that follows our webinar series. They always follow our webinar series, and they're always been a do-it-yourselfer. And what we did was we did a Google Analytics analysis. They just said, hey, could you help us look at this? We just can't figure out what's going on. And what happened was in September of 2019, they had a decrease in bookings all of a sudden. And they attributed it to a bad leaf season in their destination. For those of you probably East Coast, I don't know, maybe it's everywhere. Leaves are a big deal in the fall on the East Coast, at least in a lot of destinations. And they had a bad season. So like, well, we had a drop in revenue. We attributed it to the leaf season. Makes sense. And they moved on and nobody thought anything of it. Then COVID hit, revenue dropped. They didn't think anything of it. And it just kept happening. Like revenue stayed down. And that's what led them to reach out to us and say, hey, something's wrong. Can you just help look at our analytics? And what I found was before leaf season even started, they had an SEO issue. And because they weren't in their analytics regularly, they weren't paying attention to it. They never realized it. Unfortunately for them, the SEO issue happened at the exact same time another event happened, the bad leaf season, and they attributed incorrectly to the leaves when in reality it was an SEO issue. That one SEO issue that they had that went unidentified, by the time they called us and we caught it for them within like 15 minutes of getting on the phone, by the time we found that one issue had cost them about $120,000 in revenue we could see just from organic search. We know it probably cost them another $120,000 of phone bookings that they didn't get. The point being, you got to pay attention to this. You got to have a plan. You got to have a strategy, because if you don't and something goes wrong, you're going to lose a lot of money, a lot of revenue if you're not paying attention to what's going on here. There's a few other tips there. I can't get them all. This is its own like hour-long topic. We'd love to share some content with you on, and maybe Tracy and I will find a way to get that out to you guys. We've taught a lot of content on this topic, but it's so important, and you've got to be paying attention to it, especially in this season, especially in a time where we also see a lot of shift happening with people moving to or Google shifting to pay-per-click advertising. And we're going to talk a little bit about Google and Bing advertising here. And some of our stats here. I personally have a love-hate relationship with Google advertising. It used to be exclusively a hate relationship with Google advertising. And probably 3 years ago, I refused to do it as an agency. And I will admit my sin in that way. In my stats fortunately, thought better of it and convinced me that we needed to start doing it and looking at it more closely. Reason being, my thought was pay-per-click is a short-term investment and I want to earn our way to long-term success with our customers. And I put a lot more stock in the organic side. I still have a lot of stock on the organic side of things and believe strongly in it. But my team convinced me to lean more into paid advertising, and they were absolutely right. And we are crushing it from a paid advertising perspective for our customers now. And about 70% of our customers are doing paid advertising on Google and Bing, and that continues to grow. On top of that, our customers are seeing an average return on ad spend of 10 to 20x, meaning every dollar they spend on Google ads, they're getting $10 to $20 back in bookings. So massive success that we're seeing in this area. Many of them are outperforming even that, but 10 to 20x is our average performance. Compare that to the industry average, which is about 3 to 5x. And if you don't know the answer to the question, what's my return on ad spend, you need to go figure that out right now. Go to, well, maybe not right now, but maybe in like 15 minutes. Finish the presentation, then go figure that out. Look in your analytics and figure out what is my return on ad spend. And if you don't know how to do that, email me and we will help you. In 15 minutes, we can figure that out for you. Point being though, and in that same example I shared earlier, they were getting a 2.7x. They were actually slightly below the industry average, but their budget was really high, which oftentimes really high budgets are a little bit lower from on the average perspective. But the industry average, as we see it, as we do analytics analysis for so many people, is 3 to 5x. I probably don't need to educate that you as a vacation rental manager, if you're working off of a 20% commission, that 5x is where break even begins, and it has to be higher than that for you to actually be profitable. Yet most of you, I would bet, if you're doing Google ads, fall into that industry average of 3 to 5x, and you're losing money on Google advertising. And we would love to just look at it with you, share some ideas and thoughts and help you understand that. Because if you keep losing money on it, and that customer in Arizona I talked to yesterday, they've been losing money on it for 2 years, not prospective customer. Let me be clear on that. Prospective customer, they've been losing money on Google advertising for 2 years and they didn't even realize it. Now, the opportunity there is to make a significant improvement for them and get that working. And it will be a big part of their strategy in 2021 once it's successful. And they asked me the question, and this is probably one of the biggest questions we get with Google advertising, is what should my budget be? And I said, I don't even want to change your budget right now. What I want to do is get you from a 2 point something X is where they were. I can't remember exactly, but a 2 point something to a 10x. Once we're at a 10x return on ad spend, then let's talk about what your budget should be. But for now, let's just leave your budget the same. Once we get to a place where we're happy with our return on ad spend, then we'll get more complex. We'll look at impression share. We'll look at a whole bunch of other things to figure out what your budget should be. But for now, let's leave the budget alone. Let's just get it working better for you. Let's quit wasting money. Let's quit losing money. You can kind of read on the screen there some of the things we love about it, some of the things we hate about it, but this is so important. One, I believe, and my staff has convinced me through the results they're driving for our customers, everybody should be doing Google advertising right now. You can't afford not to. Everybody should be doing Bing advertising because honestly, it performs about twice as well as Google advertising does. So if you have the budget, you should be doing both of those. If you don't have the budget, you should just be doing Google, but everybody should be doing it. And unfortunately, most people are not performing well. Most people fall on the average of 3 to 5x, and you need to make a change if that's you. We'd love to help you understand if that's you. What I can say, we onboarded a customer 2 weeks ago. They were doing a 6x and they were happy. But unfortunately, a 6x in this season is actually not good. A 6x during COVID is terrible. Our customers see on average of like 20 to 40x during COVID, just in that season, because COVID was such a unique season that actually did a lot of really good things for the revenue part of our business. So they thought they were good at 6x because they were above the industry average, but what they didn't do was apply the COVID effect to that and say, during COVID, you should be a lot higher than 3 to 5x, because that was like the easiest time to make money on pay-per-click we've ever seen in the history of our company. So much goes into that. You've got to get into the data to really understand that and see what's going on. So I would encourage you to do that. If you're spending money on Google ads, 10 minutes, we can look at the data and help you understand if it's going well or not, and give you a couple quick action items on what you need to be doing there to make a difference. A couple other quick stats here. Most vacation managers are wasting 70% of their budget. That connects to the fact that they're only getting a 3 to 5x return on ad spend and losing money. You can see our year-to-date average there at 17x return on ad spend, year-to-date average across our customer base. And that's just in analytics. We know they're picking up phone bookings on top of that we're not even tracking that make that ROAS go even higher. And within 90 days of taking over a campaign, we consistently double the customer results, oftentimes within the first 30 days, but definitely within the first 90 days, we're able to double your results. I had a customer come on board, they were getting a 20x ROAS. And I said, I know you've heard me say that before, so let me say I don't know if that's true in your case. And sure enough, within 90 days, their 20x ROAS had become a 40x. Reason they're so high is their average booking is incredibly high. They have very expensive properties. So that's a reason why they're so high, but we still took a 20x and made it 40x. Don't have time to touch on this one today, but certainly have a review and packaging and partner plan as part of your strategy. We've got a cool tool we built to help get more 5-star reviews. I believe VRMU has some really cool tools to help you get more 5-star reviews as well. So certainly make sure that's worked into your 2021 plan. And then last here, make sure you're spending time understanding your analytics. I've talked about it several times throughout our conversation today, but you should be reviewing your analytics data at least monthly, but ideally weekly. What I tell people is if you don't love analytics, and that's okay not to, it's not okay not to pay attention. It's okay not to love it. So find something you love, whether that's a coffee from Starbucks or a bottle of wine or a beer or whatever, and make a date, ideally weekly, but at least monthly. Make a date with that bottle of wine and your Google Analytics and sit down and dive into the data with yourself and do that. And from time to time, ask somebody to give you a third-party perspective. Ask somebody to take an outside look at it. We would, like I said, be happy to do that for free for our VRM partners to help you guys out in understanding what the data means. Because after you look at it a while, you kind of start to go cross-eyed and everything looks the same. But we'd be happy to look at that. If you're already working with a marketing company and you think they're doing a great job, that's awesome. We'd be happy to give you a second opinion and give you some ideas. On a regular basis, you should be leaning on your marketing partner to lead that discussion about Google Analytics, and they should be driving from that data. I was talking to a customer or a prospective customer a few months ago, and they said, I always ask my marketing agency about analytics, and they never want to show data. They always tell me, I don't have time to deliver reports. I'm too busy executing on work for you. And I would say reporting is like a report card, right? If your kid comes home from school and they on report card day and they run in the house and they want to show you their report card, there's a reason. It's probably because they got good grades. If they come in the house and they slink up to their room and they don't talk about it, chances are you know what those grades are going to be. The same is true of your marketing agency. If they come to you every month and say, hey, here's our report, here's what's going on, here's what's going well, here's what's not, and here's what we're going to do about it, you've got a proactive, hardworking agency that's doing a great job for you. But if they shy away from reporting, they shy away from transparency, they shy away from the conversation about data, chances are they don't want you to see what the data says because it doesn't tell a good story, and they're trying to figure out how to spin it in a way to get that story there. So just a little bit of tidbit, a little bit of insight into what's going on from an analytics perspective, but know this data, own this data. And if you don't feel like you're in a place that you own this data, certainly let us know. Again, we'd be happy to connect with you on a free Google Analytics analysis. And as you think about all the things we've talked about, really work towards understanding return on investment and return on time. The scarcest resources we have as entrepreneurs are time and money. You've got to figure out which is more scarce for you. Which do you have less of? Because understanding that will help you understand what do you need to do. Understanding marketing is an investment, it's not an expense. Your CPA dad will tell you it's an expense, but your founder, your entrepreneur will help you understand it's an investment. It's an investment in the future growth of your business, and it's an investment that you need to take seriously and do well. Unfortunately, a lot of marketing agencies just flat out don't do a good job. So people start to view marketing as an expense with no return, when in reality it's an investment that should create a return for you. And I want to tie back to that, the first thing there. The scarcest resource we have is time and money. You've got to figure out which is more scarce for you, because what you can't afford to do in 2021 is do nothing, right? You can't afford to be Einstein, just bury your head or not. You can't afford to fall into Einstein's definition of insanity. You can't bury your head in the sand and say, okay, I'm just not going to do anything. I'm just going to wait and see what happens. That's not a strategy. It might be a political thing. You can run on hope, but you can't win at the game of business on hope. You got to go after it. You got to work hard for it. And you got to have a plan. Figure out, is time more scarce or is money more scarce for me? And then whichever one's less scarce, that's what you need to do. You need to invest your own time and become an expert at it, and follow our webinar series to do that. We'll teach you how to do it. Or maybe time is more scarce for you, but you have the money to hire somebody to partner with you. Make sure you find a partner you trust if that's the route that you take. And then make sure they're doing a great job for you. All right, so we touched on that one. As your next step to request a Google Analytics analysis, let us know if there's anything we can do to help you with that. Our contact information is on the screen here. You can email us, go to our website, call us, whatever works best for you. You can connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever works for you. We would love to hear from you and love to connect with you guys. Excited again to be part of the VRM family. Excited to connect with you. I appreciate Tracy and the whole team there and the opportunity to share this. I hope it's been fun. Hopefully it hasn't been too boring. Nobody's gone down the slide yet, but that's because there's only 4 of us here. But let me know if we've got any questions. I think we've wrapped up with enough time to have a few questions for you guys.
All right, we'll see. We don't have any questions right this second, but we'll pause there for just a moment. And like I said, I can always come up with questions or comments, but next to email marketing and blogging, I think my absolute favorite thing to talk about is branding. I love branding as a marketer. Like, I know the importance and the benchmark that sets for your business. But why don't we just, since we have a few seconds, just speak on that again? I know you kind of blew past that kind of fast, but just the importance of branding for your business and what that does to your guest in public view.
Yeah, absolutely, man. There's so much there that we could talk about, Tracy, and thanks for resurfacing that. One, I mean, the Google algorithm update that is specifically calling out branding and how important that's going to become. A lot of people feel like branding doesn't tie to revenue, so I need to focus on revenue. But that's going to make it tie a lot more when Google starts looking at that brand, and you can do a lot of research out there on that update, or you can find the content we've created about it. But or email us. We'll be happy to get you the content we've created about it. But in addition to that, more traditional branding, I mean, we all have those brands we remember, the places that have done a great job of making us feel connected to them and their brand. And I think one of the unique things about our industry is how dominant the OTAs are, and this opportunity that not a lot of people do well, but to take the OTA guest and through branding, convert them into a repeat guest. Now, you've seen a lot of things, different people doing like little giveaways and things in homes. All of that can be effective, but even just email communication, making sure that you get the guest's real email address and you have branded email communication, some life cycle automation so that you're communicating with them at multiple points between booking and arrival, and then after they check out. One of the biggest gaps I see in our industry is that nobody communicates with guests between the time they book and the time they arrive unless they call in. And nobody wants them to call in, right? We're all busy. But what we need to be doing is emailing those people and giving them information, branding ourselves and helping them have a better experience by giving them the information they need to be successful. So there's just a few quick thoughts on how to do branding well, but I certainly believe it's going to be more important in 2021 than it's ever been.
Well, and I think what we've done is we've created plenty of space to come back and continue this conversation at another point in time, which we most certainly will do. Just thank you so much, Matt, for loving our VRM team as much as we do our clients. Thank you for taking the time to listen to some of them and having conversations with them. That's super important to us, and I know it is to you too. And just recognizing we truly have the best customers in the entire world, not just the industry. We have the best customers, and they are beyond loyal. They're amazing to work with. We love them so much, and we wouldn't begin to even partner with another vendor if we didn't feel like they would love them as much as we do. So we're looking forward to what Q4Launch can help you with in the future. But most that we're both excited, I think Matt and I could both say this, is we're just excited to see you go out, corner the market, be the expert that you are in your area. You are an expert like nobody else. You know your area, vacation like the back of your hand. You know how to bring an amazing vacation experience to people. And marketing is just the way that you get that in front of people. It's the way that you communicate with them. So tell your story, tell the story of your area, and go out there and just make 2021 the best year yet. So Matt, from the entire team here at VRM and all of our clients, we just want to say thank you. I hope everybody will stay tuned and check in with us at 2:00 for our final session with Jonathan and Scott Butler. They're going to be talking about the roadmap for VRM, and Scott's going to close us out with some few closing comments. So again, thanks, Matt, and thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thanks,
Bye.
Tracy. Thanks, VRM.